Welcome to UK on Mute, the podcast that raises the volume on whispered conversations in our community. My name is Raquel McKee, and if this is your first time joining us at UK on Mute, you are very, very welcome. If you are joining us for the first time, can I just say there are other episodes that you've missed? Make sure to go back and have a look. And I'll just introduce you to our hosts and then tell you about our guests. So, hosting with me today are...
Hi, I'm Yolande. Hi, everyone.
And Natasha.
Hi.
And we have two guests with us today. And unfortunately, we don't have Angela Ifunaja. She'll be joining us on the next episode. Okay. So, our guests today are Nandi Jola, who is a poet and activist living and working in Northern Ireland, but born in South Africa.
That's correct.
And I might even go as far as to say, during apartheid.
Check out the outfit.
Oh, yes.
We're going to get to
Which
that.
tribe is that?
Tell us which tribe that is.
Hosa tribe.
Hosa tribe. There we go. So, this is the lovely say it properly. Hosa. There we go. Outfit. I've been trying to practice my clicks, but I'm just not quite there yet. So this is a lovely outfit that goes with the tribe. But
I think Pastor Ndemiso will take me on that one. It's not the traditional Hosa.
it's not
outfit,
the traditional,
but it's a South African one.
A South African
Right.
one. There you go.
No, it's a mixture.
It's a mixture. It's no meal.
And you just heard our other guest, Ndemiso Kambo.
Clicking.
Almost right, who is actually joining us from South Africa today on Zoom. So this is another little twist in our tale, a different way for us to engage with you. So hopefully you will enjoy being with us today. Today we want to have this special little episode where we are thinking about Women's Month in South Africa, which is the month of August. And
Hey, that's my birthday month.
yeah, happy birthday!
It had to be Women's Month then.
And we want to think a little bit about how women engage with Women's Month, both in South Africa and in Northern Ireland and beyond. We want to think a little bit about one of the major issues affecting women in South Africa, this whole issue of gender-based violence, and we want to think about what's being done about it. First of all, I want to start off by asking, and Natasha, I think you know about this part. Women's Month, we don't normally celebrate it in August in Northern Ireland. When do we normally celebrate it? And do you know why?
I know that normally it's celebrated in March. I'm not quite sure who began, that tradition of choosing March, but March is when it's recognized here in Northern Ireland. And it's just generally to highlight many of the great things that women have done and continue to do, as well as to bring awareness to issues that affect women. So I assume it's pretty much something along the same lines. Nandi can correct me, because different countries might have different takes on how they celebrate their Women's Month. So Nandi, you can let us know maybe what South Africa does differently or the same.
I can, certainly. In South Africa, it's August, specifically because on the 9th of August in 1956, around 20,000 women marched to union buildings. And they were there to protest the introduction of past laws that were being now extended to women. We all know that the Dom Pass laws were the laws that there was a curfew after 9 o'clock. You couldn't walk the streets of South Africa because that we were during apartheid. So the 9th then of August was declared Women's Day. But it went on then that the whole month we should be celebrated because we've lost so many women along the way. And because of apartheid, we couldn't celebrate so many women along the way.
Yeah.
So that is why it just was not enough to have just the one day, but just to have a whole month, just to give those respect to all those women that have passed.
And I think just in general, to add to that, generally across the globe, Women's Month, I believe, is going to be synonymous with struggles that women have endured over the decades. And I'm probably going to be hearing voices of men in the background saying, how come there was never a Men's Month?
Passing Ndemiso, you don't think that. Sure you don't.
A Men's Day. But it's just...
We do. June, we celebrate men.
Yes.
Oh, in South Africa. Well
Yes,
done.
we do.
Well done. Yeah.
Why do you
I suppose that's when Father's Day.
That's
too,
when
isn't
Father's
it?
Day
Yeah,
is,
right.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Father's Day and the
Do you think it's important to have a Women's Month and a Women's Day?
I'm going to be quite honest here, Raquel. I think really it is important to celebrate struggles. Well, when you can't celebrate struggles, but to bring awareness to it. And if that is the struggles that women endured, yes, it is important. And similarly, it's perhaps the reason why we have Child's Month, or like in our country, it's bringing awareness to the different facets of society that might have those different struggles. And so to me, it is important.
So how is Women's Month celebrated? Natasha, I think you've been involved in some in Northern Ireland, have you, in the past?
Yes, the organizations that have held Women's Month activities in Northern Ireland usually pick women from different aspects of society, whether women doing community work or making strides in their career, or just their different social involvements, and they will give them a platform, have them speak about what they do, encouraging networking amongst women, just celebrating women. And also there's also always usually a celebratory aspect where we'll have like performers, whether poets or singers or dancers, just women having a good time, enjoying their space, amongst themselves.
I remember we went to one last year, Natasha, you and I, and the song is stuck in my head. The song that went, I'm every woman. I can't forget that. And we partied at the end of that thing to that song. It was pretty good anyway.
Very good.
I mean,
so Nandi, tell us
I'm in
about...
Northern Ireland almost 20 years, and every year I'm involved with WRDA. I'm involved with Linda Walker and Helen Cricket, and those are the pillars in our society when it comes to women's work, as well as Monica McWilliams, who know, with the Women's Coalition.
Okay.
So what my role has been in Northern Ireland, because of the links and the strong ties that women in Northern Ireland have with the women in South Africa, the ANC Women's League. So what my role was then was to connect the two dots between then and now, and to be that mouthpiece for the new free women of South Africa that have now, even to have a passport, right?
Yeah.
To leave South Africa was a big deal.
Yeah.
So now that I'm here, how can I thank those women who have trailblazed honestly that path for me? And when I speak to those women that were in those campaigns and they were hosting ANC Women's Leagues coming here in West Belfast, I feel so proud as a South African. I mean, I was a speaker at the International Women's Day rally in front of the City Hall, and I always organize events in Black Box with yourself, Raquel, as poets, as performers. But I can never forget what ties are there, with the dance stores workers when they boycotted every product from South Africa just because they were in solidarity. So we still have those relationships. We still have those ties. And it's nice actually now for them to see the fruits.
Brilliant. Passing Nambo, how do I say it? Nambo. Can I just bring you in on this part of the conversation about how is Women's Month celebrated, and what kind of ways are there that people are showing solidarity?
Well, thank you very much, and shout out to my home girl Nandi there from Eastern Cape. Good to see you. Well, I think for me, it's more than what women have done in terms of struggles that we need to celebrate. But we need to celebrate women for whom they are, the gift of God that is women in humanity. And that's the first important thing. Without them doing anything, just that gift that brings life to the world and nurtures life and grows life. And in life, they even give all that they have, sacrifice their body, sacrifice their jobs and everything to raise us as humanity and as human beings. And therefore we celebrate that. And the struggles that they went through, not only during the time of apartheid or the struggles that they are facing today, in terms of the gender-based violence and all kinds of ills that are happening. But we celebrate them. We celebrate what they stood for during the time of apartheid. And I always say, and Nandi will agree with me, I always say to people, in South Africa, people will talk about our stalwart Nelson Mandela, forgetting that without Winnie Mandela, there was no Nelson Mandela. If Winnie Mandela was not there, Nelson would have been simply forgotten and rotten in jail, and he will never be remembered. But because of that woman who stood up, who was tortured, who was beaten, who was put in solitude, and many more women who were in the struggle. When we talk about the month of August, we remember their sacrifice. And therefore, when we celebrate women, we celebrate the gift of God, we celebrate love, but more than anything, we celebrate the strength and the tenacity that women have in our society.
So I want to tease out a little bit more about the gender-based violence that's come to the fore in recent years within South Africa. Nandi, have you any specific stories that you know about?
Raquel, to put it in context, I have left South Africa 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And South Africa I left was transitioning. Mm-hmm. There's always been violence, like anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Like there is in Northern Ireland, where I am. But what I have now been witnessing by listening to women, my mother, and all the women that I'm worried about, is my mother safe? Mm-hmm. That's the level now I am talking about. Also, these infants that are being raped, and these young girls, like I went to university for good 4 years. I had no fear for my life, you know? And this is what is worrying me. Is it safe for me to bring my daughter home? Mm. And that's what hits home to me. Mm. And I must honestly say that I am worried every time I bring her home. Mm.
Mm. You know, if I could just say in my mind, when I tried to put this in perspective in terms of a juxtaposition, maybe South Africa versus maybe the Caribbean or Northern Ireland, in my mind, in the Caribbean, and like you said, Nandi, everywhere else, there is perhaps gender-based violence. Mm-hmm. But when I think of it in the Caribbean, it generally seems to be maybe a bad man thing. Men trying to subjugate women, or is like the head of the household thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if it is more or less the same issue that causes the systemic, it seems, or the broad scope of violence in South Africa. Mm-hmm. Is that what it is on the surface?
I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's doing this for research purposes. Mm-hmm. And she based her research back into how a girl child and a woman was seen in society. And she based it on the fact that a woman or a child was a subject of a man.
Right. Mm.
And how, for example, in one of our tribes, where the women are displayed for the king to go and pick a girl. Mm. You know, so from there on, then how were women subjected and normalized to this kind of you are an entity? Mm-hmm. So I guess some men's mentality is one of entitlement to women's bodies. Mm. And I guess sometimes the tribe and the culture didn't help. But the education is there now and the law is there to enforce it.
Pastor Nambo, can I get you to come in on this? What is the scale of the situation there on the ground?
Well, the situation on the ground is not looking good. And Nandi is correct when she says that violence has always been there. I think we grew up in a society that was very violent. Before 1991, we were in a context of violence. Brutal killing in parts of KZN, in Joburg, the black on black violence and white and black violence. And therefore there was that upbringing of this society that believes that in order to solve any of its problem, they should be fighting and they should be killing. Mm-hmm. And therefore, even when the country was liberated, but the mindset was never liberated. It was now white and blacks. What you see now in parts of America and other places, Black Lives Matters, we had that same scenario here. It then moves to black. And now what we see now, it is something that we never saw before, the killing of women and children. And she's correct when she says, as long as women are perceived to be of a less class, and when we speak about women as men, we say our women. And the fact that we say our women, we then simply suggest that you are our commodity, we own you. And we still have cultures in our sectors. The culture that, for example, she's mentioned now, the Swazi culture, where the king picks and the king, and the same apply in KZN. You have other cultures in part of Eastern Cape that is called Ukutwala, where a 16-year-old, 14-year-old girl will be forced into marriage, whether she wants it or not, but she will be married to that person. Because of what? Because she is viewed as the commodity that will bring money to this particular family where she comes from. In fact, when a girl child is born, they will say, we will be rich because there will be lobola. In other words, we will sort of negotiate for you that we can get something from out of you. And that's been the culture that has been there. And this is the culture then that made it easy for men then to take an advantage of women, because by that culture, they are simply suggesting to women that you are of no value, you are validated by the man that will basically pays for you. And because I have paid for you, I can do anything that I want to do. And this is where it brings to the issue of economy, because as long as women are not empowered enough and women are not put in the same scale as males in the workplace and in the society, women will always be seen as dependent to men. And once that happens, then violence and victimization becomes the norm of the day.
That is really helping to put it in a context. And I just want to frame it even more in a wider context and just say, I hope nobody goes away from this and think that South Africa has a huge problem, because unfortunately so much of what you've said is real all across the world.
Exactly.
You know, in the Caribbean, you know, a lot of women, it's the baby father is the means from which she is going to have a life. And you know, once that mentality continues, there will always be problems. There will be major problems. And yet in the same societies, we can see that women are strong and powerful and have so much to offer. So I just want to turn this now round a little bit more in the conversation to start thinking about solutions. What are women doing? What is happening where you are? But Nandi, I'm going to start with you.
Well, to put it in context, first of all, Miss Universe is South African. Hello. So Zibanzi Tunzi is a South African, and she is leading. If she is Miss Universe, she is leading. Okay? Our UN Women Executive Director, we have to know that she is South African. Yeah? Phumzile Mlambo Ncuka. So we are trailblazers, not only South African women, but other women as well. But I'm just highlighting that even our minister in parliament, we have one of the highest percentage where women are represented in parliament. Us, Rwanda in Africa, we are leaders when it comes to representation in parliament. So we have to be proud of those milestones. But
Absolutely.
also, we also have to remember women like Mama Miriam Makeba, who made South Africa, you know, known because she was in exile, but she didn't forget her heritage. That song was known as a click song, but if you ask anyone around the world, the click song, they know exactly where it belongs to. It belongs to South Africa, you know. So let us not forget that there are solutions, and women have been pushing for these agendas to be on the equal level plate. And I think it's important also to know that women are the ones that are feeding the families.
Absolutely. And that it shouldn't be taken lightly.
And it shouldn't be taken lightly. We've seen it during the lockdown, how hard it is to educate children. How hard it is. I think men got some taste of what it's like to run a household. And so as soon as the pubs were open, they were out there.
Can I get a little bit about what else is happening in South Africa now? What are you doing? What is your church doing? What's happening? What kind of solidarity is taking place as well?
I think I just need to also to add on the picture on the ground, because currently we got the latest statistics from the Minister of...
We lost you there for a bit.
Can I get you to repeat that? We lost one part of your sentence.
No, I'm saying, let me just give you a picture on the ground from the latest statistics that we have received from the Minister of Police. Mm-hmm. He reported to us that between the last quarter, the sexual offenses have gone up by 20.5%. And also the common assault by 2.1%. And the figures are high. If you look at them, they are quite high. And therefore, it then suggests that there is a problem that is there in the country when it comes to this. Now, the killing of women, for example, in only last week, we received bad news that there was a woman who was found in Twalume in KZN. Her body was rotten, and only 3 days ago, a 75-year-old woman was killed. And therefore, there is this thing that is happening in the society where I could say the moral fiber of the society is rotten, actually, and completely so. And therefore, the church, not only the church, but other organizations have been there. You've got, for example, organizations that have been there for too long, like the POA that stands for People Opposed to Women Abuse. They have been there, and they have been spearheading this campaign that this should end against women. We have got FAMSA. FAMSA means Families of South Africa, and many structures that seek to do that. We've got male structures, for example, the Sonke Justice, the men that are standing and say, not in our name, which I don't believe in that, not in our name, like that they are using. Because if I then distance myself, then nobody will take full responsibility, because I will simply say I am not doing it. And it all affects us. So we've got these civil society movements that are standing up against this violence against women. And the church have taken a stand. In fact, the Methodist Church, for example, our presiding bishop, Bishop Purity Malinga, who actually is the first woman to be the bishop in the whole of Africa. In fact, we were the first one to elect a presiding bishop. She is equally to what is called an archbishop in other churches, even before UK elected the first presiding or president of conference. In South Africa, we were first. And therefore, there are strides that we are making the community and as the country. But be it may, she then declares that we need to take 7 weeks of making awareness. And her message was that we need to end silence, and women must begin to be open and free to speak about violence. And the reason why this violence is going so deep in our society, it is because women are scared. If I speak, what will people say? If I speak, I will lose my boyfriend, because my boyfriend who provides this for me. If I speak, what will happen to my children if I speak? And therefore, we have a society that is so scared to speak. And therefore, we were saying, enough is enough about silence. People must talk. Men are speaking alone and women are speaking alone. And we need to come together like we're doing now, have a conversation on both perspectives. What is it that women are saying?
Thank you. That was yes. very insightful. Very insightful. Yeah. Really appreciate that input there. Mm-hmm. So, Nandi, I'm going to come back to you a little bit more now and just ask you about, what about here in Northern Ireland? What are women going to do about Women's Month, Women's Day? You know, is there anything is there any kind of address being made to the whole concept of gender-based violence? Tell us a little bit more. Tell us about the event coming up.
Okay, so I'm hosting an event, a webinar, and what we are doing is speaking with women that are highly successful, South African women, so that they are influential
Are those women living in Northern Ireland? Or?
There's 4 speakers in total. So we have a woman that lives in the UK, in the mainland.
Right. Okay.
We have one that lives in the Republic of Ireland, and we've got one that is in Scotland, and we've got one that is here by the name of Nandi Jones. So, as a poet and an activist, I think that it is right to keep on moving.
Yeah.
But what saddens me is that in South Africa, for example, I have a woman who is in the Women's League, in the ANC Women's League. And in South Africa, it seems that our contributions and what we are doing is not recognized. And that really demoralizes us sometimes. But also it gives me strength when I see Umfundisi or Undumiso, knowing that message will be passed on, because we need more than one source to rely on, because it's like that thing of gatekeeping. If there's a gatekeeper there, then you know nothing is going to get past that gatekeeper. But when we network and we have these platforms where the message can be spread and the word can get out there. So I am so privileged to be sitting here and be discussing the event which is happening on the 29th.
And we feel honored
August.
to have you, because as you say, it's not a South Africa problem. It's a world problem, and it's a worldwide problem. And we feel honored to have you here bringing some attention to
but
what's happening.
there's a South African community here, and people might say, oh, they're not that active. But they have their own issues coming from this society of, now that Umfundis has spread it out there, what the problems are. So have in mind that women are dealing with a lot. The trauma of apartheid, it's passed on, it's intergenerational. So Anesu is born here, but she's still listening to me talking on about apartheid. She probably knows more about apartheid than I do. So that's what I'm saying. So the event is on the 29th of August. It's a 3 to 5. I'm more than happy to pass on the link to you girls and to Umfundisi Ndumiso. But also, can I just close with a poem?
Please do. We can't have a poet without a poem.
Poet without a poem. So the name of the event is Ubunjwe Wabanje, meaning that God has created you like this. There's no mistake. Ubunjwe Wabanje zazi zikeke zikenye zithande zixhome umgangatho wakho, ziphakamise, zingciba nebhongo neqhayiya ngobuntu bakho, zibonakalise ezizweni ukuba ungwenzwe ngubani. Zazi uba ngubani na, zazi apho uphuma khona, zingce iba nebhongo iba neqhayiya ngobuntu bakho. Amakho.
Nandi, I don't need to even understand what you're saying to feel the emotion. And honestly, my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
Really.
Thank you, girls.
Nandi, it has been a privilege, a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. Ndumiso, still can't get it right. Nambo. Thank you so much. It has been such a rich conversation. And when we were talking about having this episode, we felt it was so important to have the male and the female voice.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that we did.
And even to have someone from back home in South Africa.
So now we can continue the conversation in Xhosa, so we don't have to understand it.
Any last little word? We have to wrap up now. But
thank you, ladies. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, just want to say thank you very much, ladies, for the work that we are doing. Really, Nandi, you are representing us well in Northern Ireland. We are proud of you. We follow you. We listen to your work that you are doing and the work that is done there. And the struggle of women is not yet over. Until the day we will wake up and hear that not even a child has been molested, not even a single woman who's reporting a case to the police station. Women will be able to walk freely. They can dress anyhow. It does not have to be the question that she asked for it because she was wearing this. And if one thing that we can end in our society as I close is that we need to stop to accept things that are not acceptable. We need to stop normalizing things that are not normal, and we need to stop tolerating nonsense.
Can I just ask us then, when we close, just to put our fists up, Umfundisi will know that, and can we all say Amandla?
Yes.
How do we say it?
Amanda. Very good. What does it mean?
It means power to the
Power
people.
to the people,
Power
to the
to
women.
the people. Power
Very
to the
good.
women for women's
Very good.
rights.
And do you need to use your right hand or left hand, or doesn't matter?
I use my right hand.
Your right hand.
Yes, I
Okay.
always use my right hand. Yes.
Right hand.
Yes, Amandla.
Mandla.
Yes.
Amantla.
Yes.
Okay, well, I thank you all for watching. Thank you for joining us. If there's anybody who has been affected by the things that we have discussed, please remember that there are various avenues. If you're in Northern Ireland, that you can approach counsellors. You can go to Anchor Counselling. You can go to Samaritans, etc. You can approach your GP. They will refer you. If you're outside of the UK, I'm sure there are other avenues as well. But above all, don't sit and suffer in silence.
Yes.
And if it has affected you, not because you have experienced it, if it has affected you, you can do something. You can add on our Facebook page or wherever else any kind of signposting as to where people can go to get help. You can also donate. You can tell others. You can like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you again next time on UK on Mute.
Bye-bye.